Is it happening?
Hi.
Think it is.
Yeah, it is.
We're live.
We're live.
It's the Nazarite and boy.
And another boy.
And another boy, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. And there's also a doggy off the frame here.
Come, Piggy.
Okay, there are two. Okay, yeah, it's time to go now.
Have a great day. Bye.
So, I want to talk about two verses. One of them from the weekly Torah portion, one of them from the weekly prophets portion, the Haftarah, from the Parashat Ekev. Hang on, careful, Pinky. From the no, see.
Oh, sorry.
You clicked on something, boy.
You
All right.
clicked on something, boy.
So, Deuteronomy 7, verse 22. Moses is telling the children of Israel that, you saw with your own eyes the different things that went on in Egypt and Pharaoh. Now, this is 40 years after Exodus. Some of that generation died, and some of the generation was under the age of 20 when the sin of the spies took place, and so they are still very much alive, and some of them have a very vivid and good memory of everything that went down in Egypt. And so he says, the great things that you've seen and the trials that you've faced and the kings that you've fought, you are the ones who went through this. I'm not talking about somebody who didn't. It was you guys right here. And you're going to get to the land of Canaan. And all of those enemies, all of those foreign nations, or rather, you're the foreign nation who's conquering, but those nations, God won't disperse them, right? It's said that the divine presence went to war, right? The Ark of the Covenant went to war. And Moses says this in verse 22. He says, and the Lord thy God will cast out these nations before thee little by little, JPS Tanakh. Thou mayest not consume them quickly, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee. Now, I've spoken of this verse in the past, but I think there's such an important lesson here that can be learned, or, information that can be gleaned, that it's worth going into yet again. Even at times when the very divine presence of the Ark of the Covenant and everything that entails, that's okay, that revelation of gevurah, right, of judgment and war that goes, right, before the camp, and that even then, when it's this clear and present danger to those who are the enemies of Israel, even then Moses tells them, yes, it's an act of God, but it won't happen overnight, because there's something supernatural. The supernatural and the natural always go together, and they always, not always, because what's always, but in the Torah, they kind of run parallel. You are earthly creatures, but you also have the potential for real divinity and being that image of God. And as such, even when something supernatural happens, like the Ark of the Covenant and the divine presence going before the camp, then even then, there's still the natural world to contend with. Even if there is this revelation, this miraculous victory that comes about with God coming and fighting, but there's still the real world to deal with. And so Moses tells them, God, the Lord thy God will cast out these nations before thee little by little. It's a process. Life is a process. Conquering a land is a process. And doing so while still keeping nature and the way we interact with nature in some sort of balance. The Torah is seeking balance here. Moses is seeking balance. Because,
yes,
you could say, why wouldn't God snap his, proverbial fingers, or raise that hand,
and kill all the
right, and everyone just wiped out immediately?
Because
No, I'm saying that's fine. Because Moses says, "You will not consume them quickly, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee." Likewise, I liken it very much to easy come, easy go when it comes to any kind of process of tshuva, right, of returning to oneself, of I guess learning anything perhaps. There's that initial boom where you have that fervor, and you want to get something, you want to do something. There's a goal, there's something in mind, something you want to accomplish or carry out. But it's best usually done on a lower flame, because, right, it's the fruit that waits the longest, right, that becomes the most ripe. And in this way, it happens little by little. And the beasts of the field that will increase upon you, if you don't align properly with nature, when you're doing anything, let's say, supernatural or spiritual or metaphysical, I guess, there's great utility in still keeping your feet on, like, firmly on the ground. Firmly means with great, like, with solidness, like truly, honestly on the ground. Very much on the ground. Not, not on your heels, not on your tiptoes. Firm. Hardly. With hardness. So, if we're looking at it in the way of the individual and the process of tshuva, or of becoming a better servant of the Most High, then if you get this sudden excitement, if you have enthusiasm, that's all well and good. But don't be too manic, because the thing with that is that it might be easy come, easy go. Sometimes it's best to go with what the Torah is saying here and do things little by little, bit by bit, and have them grow and reach a balance with the natural world. And the natural world, as far as the individual is concerned, is all of those things where if we get this excitement, this idea, this feeling of that we want to make tshuva, we want to get close to the Most High, we want to do this and that, we want to be better people and good learners, of Torah and all that. But it needs to take time to take root in who we are as people. Like before that, people with their own flaws and insufficiencies and inadequacies, things that we are terrible at, things that we suck at, things that we haven't yet acquired that we ought to. The beasts of the field can also be, right, those negative parts of you, and you need to integrate them properly. Because, and this Rav Kook says this and many others, right? No, you know what, let's just leave it at that, because it's Shabbat soon, so let's leave it at that. That little by little, right, slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. And one verse from Isaiah 51, verse 2, which is in this week's, at the end of this week's prophet's portion, the Haftarah. Isaiah says to the people, "Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bore you. For when he was but one, I called him, and I blessed him and made him many." Now this translation of the JPS Tanakh says, when he was only one, he wasn't like a multitude of people. He wasn't a big nation. He was one guy. I called out to him. He was one guy. There's another way of translating it is, I called him one, as in singular. That Abraham was a kind of singularity, or the pardon?
No, it's usually, I wanted to ask who's Abraham.
Abraham, right.
Yeah,
So Isaiah says, look at Abraham, look at Sarah, look at that covenant. And you can carry out great change by making yourself great and making yourself worthy of greatness. Abraham was one man, and Adonai blessed him and made him many. Sarah was one woman, but the covenant, right, that was carried out through Isaac and later through Jacob continues here with us, here in Israel and all over the world, right, the Hebrew people, and the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we may be only individuals, as Homer Simpson said, I'm only one man. You can be blessed, and you can be worthy of being blessed, right? And you can be worthy of being made into many, right? Or carrying many. E pluribus unum, as it says on the dollar bill, right? It's the dollar bill? I think so. Is it also the dollar coin? Are there still dollar coins? I guess there are. Who knows? I don't know. But those are the two verses I wanted to talk about. Okay, so we have a couple of people here. Hello, little Andre.
Wait, did he say
We're gonna
something about
read.
me?
We're gonna read just a couple of these, and then it's almost Shabbat, so we got to get got. Little Andre says, well, "Do you want to read?"
No.
Okay.
I don't want to read.
You don't want to read.
Why did you
I
ask
just
me?
want to say, if I may, since you and I were talking about the tribe of Binyamin recently, people, do you remember when he said he does not know of anybody claiming to be of the tribe of Binyamin? Okay. I Facebook searched people with the surname Shimonovich in Israel, and a bunch of them came up. That means the tribe of Shimon have also returned. Well, look, those who have the last name Binyamin or Yemini, sometimes it has to do with Yemen, Teiman, and sometimes it has to do with not with the tribe, but with what it means, right? Son of my strength, Binyamin, the son of the right hand. So I don't know if it means that the tribe of Shimon has returned. Shimon traditionally are part of the 10 lost tribes, right? And taken out of Israel by the king of Assyria. What's up?
I just want to see how many people.
No, just the one.
Hey, Landry.
Hey, man. There are people who claim that the 10 lost tribes will not return. That's right, there are people who claim that. Midrash and certain parts of the prophets say that the kingdom will be reunited. Doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but it's said, again, according to tradition, our sages, that prophecies of calamity don't need to come true, but prophecies of comfort and of solace and of redemption and deliverance, they do need to come true. Now, maybe it's not necessarily step by step the way it will go down with this case of the 10 tribes. Some people say that they will return, some people say that they won't. Many people are looking forward to the reunification of the tribes of Israel. That will have to wait perhaps for another day. Until then, let's have a wonderful Shabbat, a taste of the world to come.
Wonderful, wonderful,
Wonderful, wonderful,
Yeah,
very wonderful.
wonderful.
A wonderful Shabbos to all of us.
He's done. No. You're done. You're not live. You get out of here. Wait, let me just end this stuff. Get out of it.